Welcome back, NCIS fans. Imagine risking your entire life, your badge, and your very soul for the one person you love more than anyone else in the world, only to have them look you in the eye and choose your enemy over you. For Tony DiNozzo, that wasn't just a nightmare. It was the devastating reality of the Michael Rivkin incident in the season 6 finale, Aliyah. While many fans point to Ziva's faked death in later seasons as her biggest secret, it's this earlier betrayal in Israel that arguably left the deepest, most jagged scar on Tony's heart. Today, we're peeling back the layers of this high-stakes emotional wreckage to understand why this specific moment hurt Tony more than any bullet or physical injury ever could. We are analyzing the true weight of trust, the burden of loyalty, and the precise moment the Tiva bond almost shattered beyond repair. The betrayal didn't begin with a grand gesture. It began in the cramped, dimly lit confines of Ziva's apartment. Tony had traveled to Israel not as an agent on a formal mission, but as a man desperately trying to save the woman he loved from a dark and self-destructive path. When Tony confronted Michael Rivkin, the Mossad officer and Ziva's lover, it wasn't just about a jurisdictional dispute or a rogue agent. It was about Tony seeing a predator in Ziva's life and stepping in to protect her when she couldn't, or wouldn't, protect herself. When the dust settled and Rivkin was dead, Tony didn't expect a thank you, but he certainly didn't expect the cold, piercing accusation he found in Ziva's eyes. In that moment, Ziva didn't see Tony as her partner, her best friend, or her protector. She saw him as the man who had murdered her link to her homeland and her past. This was the first cut, the realization that despite everything they had shared, Ziva still prioritized her Mossad ties and her loyalty to a questionable man over the partner standing right in front of her. To understand why this hurt Tony so deeply, you have to look at the fundamental core of his character: absolute loyalty. Tony DiNozzo is a man who was abandoned by his father and spent his entire life looking for a family to belong to. He found that family in Gibbs and the MCRT, and he found his soulmate in Ziva David. For Tony, loyalty is the only currency he truly values. When Ziva chose to believe Rivkin's version of events, or worse, when she accused Tony of acting out of petty, jealous spite rather than professional duty, it invalidated every sacrifice Tony had made for her up to that point. It suggested that after years of back-to-back gunfights and shared secrets, she still didn't truly know his heart. That lack of trust was the ultimate betrayal for a man who had already given her his everything, including his silence and his protection. The pain was compounded by the setting of the episode: Tel Aviv, Israel. On Ziva's home turf, Tony was the ultimate outsider, and Ziva leaned into that divide with a chilling efficiency. By siding with her father, the formidable Eli David, and the Mossad establishment during the subsequent interrogation, Ziva effectively othered Tony. She allowed him to be treated like a criminal suspect rather than a decorated federal agent and teammate. This wasn't just a personal spat in the bullpen. It was a systemic rejection of everything Tony represented. Tony had spent years trying to pull Ziva into the light of the NCIS family, offering her a life away from the shadows of state-sanctioned assassination and international intrigue. In the interrogation room in Aliyah, she seemingly threw that offer back in his face, choosing the darkness of her heritage over the future he was trying to build for them. For Tony, this felt like a final, crushing answer to the question of where her true heart lay. However, the reason this scene remains so iconic for fans, and why it's so critical to the new NCIS, Tony and Ziva spinoff, is the sheer, raw vulnerability Michael Weatherly brought to the performance. You can see the exact moment Tony's spirit breaks when Ziva tells him she can no longer work with him. It wasn't the threat of a Mossad prison or physical torture that scared him. It was the prospect of a world where Ziva David was his enemy. This betrayal forced Tony to finally grow up. It stripped away the last of his frat boy mask and left him hardened by reality. It was this deep-seated pain that eventually led him to the suicide mission in Somalia to rescue her. He had to prove that his loyalty was unshakable, even when hers had wavered. He chose to be the better man, but he never forgot the sting of being the one she rejected. As we move into their new chapter in the spin-off, these ghosts of betrayal are still very much alive in the room. The tension we see between them now, the arguments over Tali's safety and the secrets Ziva kept while she was in hiding, all stem from that original fracture in Season 6. Tony is still the man who fears being left behind, and Ziva is still the woman who sometimes believes she has to handle her burdens in isolation. The betrayal in Israel was the first time they realized that love isn't always enough to bridge the gap between two different worlds. It reminds us that their unconventional, happy ending wasn't just handed to them by the writers. It was earned through years of healing a heart that Ziva herself had once broken. What do you think was the most painful part of that Season 6 finale? Was it Tony's face when Ziva stayed behind on the tarmac, or the cold silence between them in the interrogation room? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe as we continue to deep dive into the complex history of Tony and Ziva. Thanks for watching.